Okay, in this video lesson what we're going to do is implement the ability to save and load our packages that contain our levels.
Exactly. So inside of our header file here, let's go ahead and go down and add the two events that we need to handle. We have our onSave and onLoad. We managed to put on our onLoad, but we just kind of forgot to put in our onSave.
Yeah, we put the onLoad in way back at the beginning of creating the GUI
right.
for the level editor.
So let's go ahead and put in onSave. And the other thing we're going to create is a private function that's just going to be called SavePackage. So we'll just call it SavePackage, and we're going to pass it a file name. The only reason we do this for save is because we'll be saving not only when the user goes to File, Save, but also when they press the test button, it's going to save a temporary file and load it into the game. So that's why we have a file name here. I mean a SavePackage function. So with that, let's go over to the app frame, and let's kind of scroll down to where the
well, we want to go on up to the event table to start with, and
yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Just so it's all in place up top.
Right. So let's go all the way back up to the top here, and we put the onLoad. Forgot to put the add save, so let's just put that here. And on save.
Cool.
And now let's go down to the onLoad and onSave areas. If I can find it here. If I could just go to here.
Well, we need to go ahead and create our own save now.
Yeah, but let's just look for the onLoad for a second here.
Okay, just put it right by
Yeah,
it.
we'll put it right next to it.
Cool.
So on save and onLoad. On save. So for this guy right here, let's go ahead and first do the save, which is going to be fairly easy. All we want to do is display a custom dialog. I mean a file dialog,
okay.
A save dialog that's kind of custom built with Windows. Anytime you have a save dialog inside of Windows, it uses the same default one that's inside the common controls DIL.
Right.
So let's go ahead and call this wxFileDialog, which is another class that's provided to us by wxWidgets. We'll call this dialog. It's going to be a child of this, and let's go ahead and set the title to SavePackage. Let's just set the second one to no. We don't really need anything for this one. This one's going to be what exactly is shown on the bottom, what kind of file is it going to be saved as, and this one's just going to be our package one, the default one, excuse me.
It's going to be the default name that's going to appear for saving. So if you don't put anything in, that's what it's going to save as.
Right. And then this is what I meant to say just a second ago. This is what kind of files we're going to save as. And the first part specifies what we see on the side, and then you put a bar followed by the file type, so the mask, if you will. So PKG.
Right.
PKG. And then let's just put one more thing in here. Let's not forget our parentheses here. And we want to have it to be a wxSave dialog, and we want it to give us an overwrite prompt, just in case we select a file that already exists. It'll say, are you sure you want to overwrite this? And we'll just say yes or whatever.
Right.
So once that's done, we'll go ahead and show the dialog. So dialog show modal. And if they pressed OK and everything worked alright, they didn't press cancel, then go ahead and save this package. So simply call the SavePackage function. So SavePackage dialog.getPath, which is a function inside, a member function of the wxFileDialog. And that's going to return to us the path, and we're going to convert that to a character string so that we can pass that into SavePackage.
Right.
So with that, let's go ahead and implement the SavePackage function. So let's go all the way down to the bottom and implement this guy. I figure it's a better way to first implement the save so that you understand better how we're going to actually load it. So let's come into here, because we're kind of defining our own file type here, so it's good for you to understand what format we're using. So for SavePackage, and it's cool when you're creating your own file type, you can kind of define how you want to create it.
Complete freedom.
Yes, complete freedom. So the first thing we're going to do is we need access to the file, right?
Right.
And we need some sort of file stream. For this, we have the file here, and we're just going to call this stream, and we're going to open it up. So stream, which is going to be the pointer to our file, equals fopen. We're going to open a file. What file are we going to open? What was passed to us, which is file name here. And what do we want it to? How do we want it to open it? Well, we want it to open it with write ability and plus binary. So we want to binary write out data. So it's not going to be string data or that kind of thing. It's going to be binary data. So it'll save, when you save out an integer, it'll save out that raw data, not as in text ASCII form. So with that set, let's go ahead and calculate the number of levels that we have in the currently open package. So we'll say int num levels equals the number of levels inside of our package, which is simply package arrow size. And once we have that, let's write that out to the file. So the very first few bytes inside of our file are simply going to hold the number of levels in this package. So we're going to pass it a pointer to our num levels, and the size of this num levels is going to be simply the size of an integer, because num levels is an integer. And how many integers is this? Just one. And what's the pointer to our stream? It's going to be stream. Pointer to our file, excuse me. Now what we want to do is iterate through every single level and save out the data for each. So let's simply create an iterator for this. So our level underscore info pointer, and it's going to be an iterator. We'll call it IT as we did before, and I forget which lesson now. We're going to initialize this to package begin, and as long as IT does not equal package end, go ahead and continue looping, and then just move to the next one once it's done. Now let's go ahead and get the level info. Just for easier access, inside we're going to create a temporary variable. It's called level info pointer level equals the current level that we're viewing, which is...
We're just going to pull out each level one
that's
by
right.
one.
And then what we're going to do is actually save out... First we're going to save out the width of the level, then the height of the level, then the actual data that's stored inside.
Okay.
So the first one is going to be fwrite, and again, the pointer to the levels grid x, and it's going to be a size of int, because we know that grid x is an integer, just one integer, and the file is stream, as we declared above. Let's just copy and paste this and do the same thing for the y. Now let's create a loop that loops through the grid x row by row and print out all of the data that we have there. So for integer x equals 0 and x is less than level grid x, so the width of the level, just create a constant loop that will loop through every single element that we want to output to the file. And all we need to do is write out the level. Remember, because level grid x, grid at x, this is a pointer to more data.
Right.
Right? So what we're going to do here is a size of each element is a char, right? Is a character, which is 1 byte. And we're going to have how many of these? The number of grid y. And then, of course, it's stream y. So that's going to output every single data. It's going to go from column to column and print out each column.
Right. Hence the loop within a loop.
Right. Oh, well, yeah, hence the loop within a loop. I was like, huh? Yeah. So with that done, let's simply close the file. So fclose and pass it the pointer to our file. So with that done, all we need to do is implement the loading of our game. So let's go back up to the very top where we had our onload, excuse me. So let's go all the way back to the top and look for our onload. Dun, dun. As you can see, we actually have a lot of code going on here now, if you haven't already noticed. Let's copy and paste this dialog here, because we're going to use pretty much the same thing, except for we're going to change this to load. And let's see. We also need to, let's see, what else do we need to change? Help me here, Buzz. We have our this, the second one. We're not going to have a default for this one.
Then you're going to have levels, and it's going to be startup PKG, and then, of course, the...
Okay.
So instead of...
Yeah, and then this one's going to be, let's see here. And this one's just going to be the default, which the default file dialog that we create is going to be, if you set that to 0, it's going to be the load.
Right. And I meant package, by the way.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, in this case, what we're going to do is simply show a modal dialog, as we did before. And if it's equal to OK, so he said, yes, in fact, I really do want to load. Now we go through the tedious process of loading this in. So, following pretty much the same format we had before, first create a pointer to our file. And let's go ahead and get a pointer to the file name. So, get the file name from the... So just as we did before, we get the path, convert it into a character string, and then let's go ahead and open our file. So stream equals fopen, our file name, but this case instead of W, we're going to use R, which means read, plus binary, so read in binary file, And for the first one, we're going to load in the number of levels we have. So let's go ahead and create a temporary variable that will hold that.
Since that was the very first thing that we wrote to our
Exactly.
package.
And then we're going to read this in as pass a pointer to our num levels, size of int, and we'll just pass it 1 and our pointer to our file. So we've got that loaded in. Now we also want to onload if a package already exists. If we press new, let's go ahead and delete that. So if package, delete package, and then let's create a new package. So equals new package, and then let's loop through every single level that we have. So we know that we're going to have num levels, number of levels,
Right.
and so let's create a loop here. So I equals 0, I is less than num levels, I plus plus. So the first thing we're going to need to do is create a level info. Remember, instead of saving it out, we're actually loading it in this case. So we have to create a new level info for each level to store into, to get it from the file. So we have to have some place to store it before we can load it from the file.
Right.
So with that, let's see here. Let's go ahead and load in the width and height of our level. So let's do our fread and pass the level grid x, and the size, it's going to be the size of an integer, just one of them, and the pointer to our file. So the first thing we have here is pretty much the same, except that instead of fwrite, we have fread.
Right.
Now is kind of more complicated. We have to create the memory for our level, the information for our level. So let's say grid equals new char, and it's going to be the width of our level, an array of pointers for the width of our level. So this is going to be grid x. And this is actually the same as we did for Evil Monkeys back in, what, VTM 3?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not quite familiar with how this is working, you might want to go over and review that.
Exactly the same, actually.
Yep. So we're going to loop through every single column. And x plus plus. And for each of these, each column, we're going to create a new array with what? With the height of our level. Simple as that.
Okay.
Now we need to actually load in the information. So column by column, let's go ahead and do that. So for int x equals 0, x is less than, right as above, x. But instead of actually allocating the memory, we're actually going to input it now. So let's fread level grid underscore x. Oh, no, I'm sorry. What am I thinking? Grid x.
There you go.
That's what I meant to do.
Uh-huh.
Size of char.
Char.
And then we're going to have our level, and then the size of height, the height of our level. And then, of course, our pointer to our file. So there we are. Now, with that loaded, we have our new level info that's pointing at something that we've just loaded from our file. We need to add it into the newly created package. So we simply do package, push back, the new level.
Mm-hmm.
Then, if this is the first element, let's go ahead and set that to the first level.
Okay.
So set it to the current level. So let's just say level index equals 1, the first level. Set that to the current level. Level. Simple enough.
Right.
So at that point, if this has all worked, so after this loop right here, we want to go to here, close the file, and let's go ahead and enable the toolbar depending on how many elements we have.
It's kind of like some cleanup stuff we're doing now.
Right.
We've got everything in memory.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and toolbar, enable the tool, TLB previous level, and we're going to
level index not equal to 1.
Right. We're also going to say, because we do set it level index equal to 1, this is just kind of precautionary. Make sure that if it does equal level index indeed. So we'll do the same, pretty much the same thing for this one. Next level, only if the level index is does not equal the end of the package, right? And one more parenthesis there. And then for the menu file, we want to make sure that they can actually create new levels. So we're going to enable ID new underscore level true. So we enable the new level button.
And finally we need to update our view with the new data we've got.
Yep. So without any, if we don't have any bugs in our code, everything should work great.
That's
so
right.
let's go ahead and build this. And let's run it. Oh, okay. So let's see here. Let's create a new package, 10 by 10. And let's draw something obvious looking
Kind of
out
like
here.
a square.
Yeah. And let's just put 2 enemies in here just so we can see something unique.
Sure.
Let's save this out. And as you can see, we get a save package. And it asks us, and the default name is package1. And we're saving as type package pkg. So we'll save it as the default name. So save that. Let's create a new package just so this kind of empties this one out.
Right.
So we have an empty level now. Now let's go to File, Load, and let's load up package1.pkg. Check it out.
Very
It
nice.
loads it up into files.
Now let's do a couple of things. Let's go ahead and perhaps modify this just a little bit.
Sure.
Like such, because that's cool.
Because he likes editing.
And now we'll go ahead and save. And we'll just save over, that's fine. And again, we'll do another new package. And bring that back in. And very nice. And now,
Of course, I accidentally
you
clicked.
accidentally clicked, but
Yeah.
I can survive with that. I mean, we can't always do that.
And if
then,
it makes you feel better.
yes, and then we can go ahead and do a new level. And you want to get a little bit more complicated, maybe try 15 or
Or 12 by 12.
12
Ooh.
by 12. Aren't you fancy?
Yes, I am. And let's create an S shape.
Because you like things that don't really look like an S. And then
Let's place a player start here and here.
Okay.
Enemy start here and here.
and of course, keep in mind, you guys can see all of the functionality starting to come to life here. Let's go ahead and move this on up, where we can back up, go back forwards. So that's, of course, very nice. And then let's go ahead and just save over.
Let's create a new one just so we have 2 different versions
Okay.
of it.
That's cool.
So let's save this. And if we wanted to, we could load our previous version and say, well, I like this one better. But I don't. So
And it only has one level. You
it
can't
only has
go
one level.
to a level 2.
And let's load our newly created version. And if we check this out,
Haha.
it loads this one perfectly fine. If we go back to the first one, it's still this one.
So we've demonstrated that not only can we save out a level or several levels in a package and reload them, but we can also go back and edit them and resave that data out.
That's right.
Which is very cool, very powerful.
So pretty much the last step is to make it so that the game, our Evil Monkeys game, can actually load these files that we create in the
Right,
level editor.
and come back here and make it so that we can test these while we're designing them.
Exactly.
And with that, that's going to bring this lesson to a close. Thanks, everyone.